Tonight we have a 1-hour special treat lined up for you as I'm joined by none other than Todd Walkley, brainchild behind one of the most successful R-rated comic books ever, Slasher Man.
Slasher Man's like my life. I find it inspiring.
I'm gonna be honest with you, I haven't found my ending yet.
This is a road trip that will be really fun and really informative.
We are staying in all motels. They're all rural and they're all real.
So when I was watching this, it made me think of the true crime genre and what it's kind of become lately. And before I get into specifics there, I want to know, is that something you were thinking about the way it's developed? Tell me.
Absolutely. Yeah. The beginning of that thought for me was when I was 26 or whatever. And I was in Hawaii working on a movie, and I was reading the Anne Rule book about the Green River Killer. And Anne Rule to me is like the gold standard in true crime. And that Green River Killer book is, every chapter is a biography of one of his victims. She gives him almost no time in that book. For every 10 bios of a victim of his, there's one page and a half about him and his life. And I think he's might even be like unnamed for most of the book. And it was probably the heaviest read I've ever gone through. There's a bunch of heartbreaking bios that end the same way, and you know how they end. And her whole point was, these were people, these were human beings. These people, they're not data, right? And so how come I can name all these serial killers, and I'm hard pressed to name most of the people they killed? And is that connected to something I saw Stephen King point out, which is what is the viewer experience when you watch, say, a Jason or a Freddy thing? You know, if I can name Jason and Freddy, but I can't name any of the people they killed, you can't tell me that the movie's about them. Mm-hmm. Who the heroes of the movie are, the killers. And then if that's true, then what is the experience as a viewer? Well, it's north or south of vicarious sadism. And is our true crime fascination with the largesse, the grandeur of the deed perpetuated by an evil man, when we allow that to trump the horrendous experience of what the victims went through and the hole that creates in their families, there's something kind of, at the very least, without condemning an entire society, I'll say it doesn't sit well with me. And I wanted to kind of, explore that and see why is it, and what is it when we pay attention to the killer's deed, and because we end up examining all of those kills as like the accumulation of a career. We look at it as an art. We look at a killer's kills the same way we look at an artist's records. It becomes this thing that we judge this entirety of this thing without paying attention to the experiences of the people that suffered this stuff. And if nothing else, that push and pull seemed like an interesting thing to talk about in a film.
Yeah. Well, I feel like there's an aspect to the true crime stuff, like especially when you watch like series like Don't Fuck with Cats and and even you haven't gone through that yet, or?
No, I did, and I have such kind of mixed opinions about that thing, because I'm from NDG. Right. And that's where Luca Magnotta did his thing, and that god awful scary apartment that he's in is like blocks away from where I've lived most of my life. So I remember when that started happening. In fact, it started just with a torso in a suitcase outside in the garbage beside the apartment. And at the time, Jesse and I, who I wrote the movie with, were living in NDG. And it was on local news that they found a torso in a suitcase, and he was like, "Oh, I did a moving job in that building. I've been in there." And he's like, "I might have moved that dude once." So I followed this thing very, very closely. My thing about that move, about the don't mess with cats thing, is I think it's like super well done. I think the craft is really strong. I think it's a very well put together story, and it's super slick, but I kind of think it was irresponsible. Mm-hmm. I didn't need to see 1 second of any video he shot to know what he did and to know how horrendous it was. And I understood the reason they put it in there was to garner a strong reaction and to make you hate him and understand why everybody was trying to find him. But I was like, I didn't need that. I don't need to see a kitten on camera. Like, I already knew what he did to the poor things, you know, and there's now shit in my head that I can't get out. Like, I close my eyes and I see shit from those videos, and like, which by the way, then somebody will say, well, that's great filmmaking then. And an argument could be made, but this is real shit. And June Lin was a real man, and his mom had to come and fucking repatriate his corpse. And so there's something in it that didn't sit quite well with me.
I hear you all the way. You know, I actually wanted to, because I'm so wary of the time, I do want to backtrack for a second. I'm backtracking now 10 years. 10 years ago, I interviewed you for the cover of Now magazine. And in that this is at the time you were writing Goon, a movie about violence in hockey, but you were also writing a horror movie about a police officer stalking Black teens. Whatever happened to that movie? Because, you know, in the last 10 years, I thought about it a lot, considering what's been going on in the world.
Yeah, so have we. To be honest, and people might not believe us, but Jesse and I stopped because we came to the conclusion at that time, we were 27 or 28, but we were like, we're too young and too white to make this. We would be doing it a disservice, the subject matter. We would end up making it gratuitous, and we would end up making something that would be easily dismissible. And this is a very real. Now, it makes sense, right? Because any good horror film is based on an actual real fear. And I was like, and the thing holds up. When I was a kid in the sandbox and I saw a cop car, I would wave to it. But I know that that's my experience because of my skin color. And a lot of kids don't have that same experience. And why is that? Therefore, fertile ground to mine something from a utilitarian standpoint. Oh, that's something. But it would be incorrect for us who didn't live that to kind of mine it for cheap kind of thrills. You know, we are still deeply connected to it. It's something we talk about a lot and wonder if there is if there's a way for us to do it the right way. But I just like, he and I just kind of realized we weren't the guys. That's the thing. We shouldn't be doing it.
I really admire that decision of it, because, you know, for me, I mean, I was wondering, like, why, like, you know, how does Jake, like, was the Canadian industry more receptive to a movie about hockey violence versus this violence that happens to people? But no, I appreciate it.
Well, it's just the God's honest truth. And like, we would tell people, and that's the other thing. It was like us humbling ourselves, because sometimes when you want to create ideas for a living, you can get in love with just having come up with one. and this occurred to us as a thing. We were pretty high on ourselves, like no one else has done this shit, you know. But there's a lot of fucking strings attached. And like, I wouldn't, like, I'm half Jewish on my dad's side. I don't know that I would want someone who wasn't Jewish to make a horror movie about the Holocaust. That's the best way I can say it.
I can't wait to show you.
Who comes up with this stuff?